hour of being in the room will determine the destiny of his ministry and his life. He comes to a room that he enters into the door, but Christ comes through the door.
Hi folks, you're welcome to this fresh word from God. My name is Rabbi Humphrey, and today we're just digging deeper into messages of Bishop T.D. Jakes. Yes. I don't know how to put it, but Bishop T.D. Jakes is my favorite preacher. And sometimes when I'm listening to his messages, it's something, it's another world on its own. You know, I used not to be listening to Bishop T.D. Jakes until just one day. I got this particular tape. It was actually a drive that had several messages on it. And I was like, okay, this man is great. A lot of people love his messages and they listen to him this way back several years. I can't even remember, maybe 18 years ago or 20 years ago. Yeah. And a lot of people love him and he's preaching and he's sweating all over the place. I'm like, wow, okay. I listened to some of the messages, 1, 2, 3. I was not really getting it. And I stopped. Maybe I did not understand the whooping preaching and all that. I was not getting it. So one day I was on a waiting period and it was just messages I was listening to. And this particular one, I decided, okay, I'm going to take my time to listen to this particular message of this man. My goodness, God. I finished the message and I was like, what on earth have I been listening to all this while? Why haven't I listened to him? Super. The right diction, vocabulary arranged. I'm telling you, theologically sound. He understands what he's saying within the context, outside the context, the pretext and the protext of the text is beautiful. Then he takes time to introduce and put it in a very, very practical mood, makes it so practical, lively, and you know, the way he presents it alone, man. So I fell in love with this kind of message and I decided, okay, I'll keep on listening to him every time. So I was just looking at just the preaching side of a man and did not know that he had a writing side and he had a movie production side. And it was like 3-in-1 for me. I'm like, whoa. So anytime I'm to decode messages or actually get into the messages of Bishop T.D. Jakes, it's something else. It's another world for me. And I want you to, sit tight. Just don't go anywhere. We're just going to get straight into this Bishop T.D. Jakes stuff. But this is not actually a message that he's preaching in the pulpit, but this a book that he's actually discussing about. And he has this actually rapport with Pastor Stephen, and this like an old school and a new school coming together, and they have these chats mostly when he releases his books, and it's been going on for some time now. And today I want us to get into the book called Crushing that Bishop T.D. Jakes actually talked about in a way of motivating, preaching, exhorting, getting us insight, opening our minds to a lot of things that are very, very practical. Bishop T.D. Jakes is very practical, very, very practical person, and everybody that knows and understands the messages, especially when it gets into the hooping stuff, I love that about him. So I'm just going to get straight into it. But there was a question that was asked, and if you can listen to this particular fresh word from God decoding, if you can get to the end of it, it will be a blessing to you. Now, Pastor Stephen started with this by telling him that he's told people that he can preach on anything. Relating with him, he's one of the preachers, he can just preach on anything. Anything in the Bible he can just preach on. And this was the answer that Bishop T.D. Jakes gave to that. This was his reaction. Okay, let's hear the reaction.
What we were talking about is spinning the text
Yep.
Because on one hand, I'm a preacher, and on the other hand, I'm a film producer. And one of the things you have to decide whenever you do a film, you have a story. Somebody brings you a story and you decide to write a script for it. You have to decide which character is going to be the narrative, who's going to be talking. And so if you take that principle and you apply it to the Bible, is it going to be told through the eyes of blind Bartimaeus, or is it going to be told through the eyes of Jesus, or is it going to be told through the eyes of the disciples? Because every POV, point of view, leads you into a different realm of truth. You see, it depends on whose perspective. It's like a husband and a wife live in the same house, have same address, eat the same food, but they're having two different experiences. And so the point of view determines the relativity of the truth, the power of the truth, the significance of the truth is all brought about by who's talking. You take the prodigal son. It's one thing to talk about it from the son's perspective. It's another thing to talk about it from the elder brother's perspective. It's yet a third thing to talk about it from the father's perspective. Okay, each perspective opens up a new ventricle of truth and feeling and perspective. And when you look at it in its totality, then you see the substratum of truth itself.
All right, we've been going 5 minutes. You've already said ventricle and substratum, so let's slow it down.
So within 5 minutes of talking about this thing, he's talking about ventricles and substratum, I can't even mention that. Listen, Bishop T.D. Jakes is another kind of preacher you would just love to. If even you want to get some form of vocabulary that you don't really hear in a normal preaching tune, with Bishop T.D. Jakes, he can actually let you know that this one is different, and bring you even great vocabulary that you can learn. I would tell preachers, especially young preachers, if you would really want to learn, one of the people that you can learn from is Bishop T.D. Jakes. Ventricles, Let's go back to it. Pastor Stephen said it, just said let me go back to it.
There's a reason I played My Shot from Hamilton when you came out. And you know why.
You tell him.
Can I tell him?
Yeah.
Bishop Jakes and I got to watch Hamilton together a while back. Yeah. So what I thought would be fun, just a game. And then we're going to talk about the book. It's going to be very spiritual.
He warned me to brace myself for something he was going to surprise me with. So pray for me.
And it's better than a dance song.
It's always fun when the two of them come together. It's just fun. It's like an old school and a new school being put together. An old preacher and a new young preacher, on the same stage. And they're trying to bring out something from scripture so that you can really understand. So even though it is word, but they are making it so interactive so that you come to understand it very well. And that is the beauty of it. I'm saying ventricles and substratum. We'll get back to it. Don't mind me. We'll get back to it. I'm just enjoying it. And we'll come back to ventricles and substratum.
It's better than a dance-off. But what I would like to do is play a game where I give you a song title from Hamilton the musical.
Oh, God.
And you preach us a 1-minute sermon on that song title with a text. And how many of you would love to experience this? I thought you would. How y'all doing over there? This is going to be the best night of your life. Starts right now. Starts with this. Okay. So the song that you came out to.
So here, he was trying to give him words, just normal words, or songs, song titles and all that, so that he would use it to create a sermon and preach about it. That's fun. That's cool. But there are lots of stuff that you're going to learn out of it. So this is Pastor Stephen telling Bishop T.D. Jakes that, okay, we're giving you some phrase, some songs, and you are to preach something out of it. And listen to what happened.
My shot. What's the text? And what's the sermon?
My shot. My shot is the young prophet who Elijah commissions to shoot the arrow. And depending upon how far he shoots it, it determines, what he could have had. And said, if you would have struck the ground more times, you could have gone further. The power of the text exists in the reality that God does not make the shot for us, but he gives us all of the ingredients that are necessary to be successful. And so when it's my time to make my shot, you see, I can't wait on God.
Listen, he was just given my shot. My shot. He's just to preach a text around my shot. And he's just to make sure that it's practical and it's right. My shot. And he just picked it from the young prophet Elijah. Man. Super sweet. You need to learn from preachers like this. They understand the context of the text, and therefore, in any practical stuff in life, they can bring you a word. That's what we talk about, fresh word from God. Let's continue.
But I have to have the will and the tenacity and the vision and the drive to pull all the way back far enough to take my shot. Touch your neighbor and say, it's my shot. If I shouted for you when you had your shot, shout for me when I had my shot. If I was glad for you when you had your
Next one.
Okay, so next one. Next, listen to it. This what is happening. He's just giving him random statements or phrases, okay? And he's to preach a sermon out of it. The first one that he just talked about is my shot. And he picked it from the young prophet, giving the king to shoot the arrow and all those things and interpret it in a very different way. Now, he's going to give him another word or phrase, and he's to preach a sermon practical to it. Listen to it carefully.
The room where it happens.
Oh, gosh. Thomas coming into the upper room after Christ is risen from the dead, and he comes into the room having missed the initial inaugural moment that Christ reappears to his disciples. Now he comes to the room. The power of being in the room will determine the destiny of his ministry and his life. He comes to a room that he enters into the door, but Christ comes through the door. Spirit enough to come through the door and man enough to eat fish inside the door. He boggles the mind of the disciples, but that was not what convinced Thomas to believe. What caused Thomas to believe, because otherwise Thomas would have thought he was a ghost. He says, reach hither your hand and feel the nail prints in my hands and touch my side, and be not faithless, but believe. And all of a sudden, the doubting Thomas is converted only because he is in the room.
Now,
Wow.
touch your neighbor, say,
Wow. So the room that it happened. That was the phrase. The room that it happened. This is not just like, okay, I'm giving you a theme, Holy Ghost power, the Spirit of God, and you have to preach about it. These are random words that are being given. The first one was my shot. The second one was the room that it happened. Look at the context with which, he doesn't know the words. He doesn't know what he's going to give him, but he's to apply the word, fresh word to it in order to speak to somebody at that moment. And the second one was the room that it happened. And look at, he talked about Thomas. The room that Jesus came in, met the people, but Thomas was not in. And look at how he presented it and got deeper. This is word. Fresh word. My goodness. The next one.
Hey, I'm in the room. Even if I'm in overflow. In the room. One more. You want to say more about that one?
No, I can.
Because I was on a basic track. I was thinking like my shot is David and Goliath, but okay, yours is better. What else is new?
Or we could go in the room where they are mourning over the corpse of a 12-year-old dead girl, and all of a sudden Jesus puts them all out of the room until nobody's in the room but her and Jesus, and they're alone. He raises her up from the dead because he has gone into the room with her, you know. And can you imagine what it would be like to be outside the door and certainly hear the sound of ruffling feet and think to yourself, who is that moving? I hear the scampering of little feet, and I know it could not be this girl because I know she is dead. I touched her and she was cold. I touched her and she was stiff. I touched her and I knew for sure that she was absolutely dead, but I hear the sound of the scampering of a 12-year-old's feet. Because she was in the room with the right person, she got back up again. So, my conclusion is, if everybody forsakes me and everybody leaves my room, as long as Jesus is in the room, I can still get back up again. So to all of you out there who are weeping over who walked out the room, who left you, who forsook you, who did not stand there with you, as long as you've got Jesus in the room, you can still get back up again. I want to be in the room.
Pastor Stephen had no other choice than to stand. Man, this is deep. You see, he brought in a different rendition of the room that had happened, and brought Jesus and the 12-year-old girl, that is Jairus' daughter, in the room. Jesus bringing the people out of the room, and now, the miracle happened in the room. And, look at how practical he makes the word looks like. This is one of the things that makes me love Bishop T.D. Jakes. He leaves a signature on passages that he teaches and preaches on. And that is the beauty of it. Now, let's go ahead.
Don't think of nothing else, I'm running out.
One more?
Yeah, do it.
Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Okay. So everywhere to be you, what are you gonna say? Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Let's listen to Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Early in the morning, the breaking of day, the women wrap themselves up to go down to the tomb, loyal to a Jesus who has become extremely controversial, has been executed, not crucified, executed on the cross. And yet they are still going down, even though he did not do what they thought he was going to do. These women rise up early and go down to the tomb. Only when they arrived at the tomb, with the dew on the ground and the mist in the air and the fragrance of death still lurking in the inner chamber, the stone has been rolled away. And sitting on top of the stone on each side is an angel saying, he is not here. He has risen from the dead. And the question then becomes, since he is not here, who tells the story? This woman comes running back. It is totally inappropriate in a misogenic age that a woman would be the first one to carry the message. But there are some times and some seasons that you have to break the protocol of the day. Because Jesus was looking for somebody who was bold enough to walk into a room full of men and tell them, I know for myself, he is risen from the dead. And I am alive to tell his story.
Good night, everybody.
This is so beautiful. Oh my God. Who lives, who dies, who tells this story? Who lives, who dies, who tells the story? He started from my shot, and he came to touch on in the room that it happened. And now, I think the last one that he talked about was who lives, who dies, who tells the story. And he picked it from the tomb experience when Jesus was put in the tomb. The woman waking up at dawn to go and prepare with their spices and everything. And this is a detailed stuff that he brought out. And all these words are random words that were thrown to him that, okay, my shot, make it a message and release it to the crowd. In the room that it happened, take it, relay it back to the crowd with a message. Who lives, who dies, who tells the story. Take it, package it in a message and push it out to the people. And this is what Bishop T.D. Jakes did. I think that guy can preach about literally everything. Everything. We are so blessed to have him in this generation. And if you want to be a great preacher, you want to be used by God in this generation very well, these are some of the fathers that we need to learn from. Learn their discipline, learn that tenacity, that zeal with which they used to do the work, learn the kind of things that they put in, the effort they put in. This is a preacher, a writer, and a film producer. A preacher, this is a preacher, a writer, and a film producer. So you can just understand that it comes from different angles and it makes it work. Okay, so this is just a bit of Bishop T.D. Jakes and Pastor Stephen that I just want you to know. Fresh word from God. Sometimes we're not going to take it from the pulpit. We'll take it from discussions like this. And, making normal words to become so simple and coming to us as fresh word from God. Stay glued. Make sure that you subscribe to this particular channel. Hit the notification bell so that you'll be getting more of this. My name is Rabbi Humphrey.